Men, we are today exhausted trying to prove ourselves. We chase status, validation, influence, wealth, pleasure, control, right? And power. But the strongest man is not the man who dominates the room, right? Dominates the arena. It's the man who remains faithful when nobody is watching, the man who endures, the man who repents, very important, and the man who finishes with integrity. Because at the end of your life, nobody will care how great you started, right? They're all going to look at how you finished. And so that question will be, did I walk with God until the finish line? Brothers, welcome back to the Daily Sword. Today we're walking through Ecclesiastes chapter 7, where Solomon says something that completely clashes with modern culture today. I'll start off just reading the first two verses. A good man is better than precious ointment in the day of death than the day of birth. It is better to go to the house of mourning than go to the house of feasting, for this is the end of all mankind, and the living will lay it to heart. I titled this, The End Reveals the Man. And what it is that clashes with modern culture here, as I just said, is that better is the end of a thing than its beginning, because our world celebrates beginnings, new ventures, new platforms, breaking ground on new property, as we're about to do, new followers, new brands, new relationships, new goals, the New Year's Eve resolutions, right, of what we're going to do, these new beginnings we're going to undertake. And our world celebrates those. But Solomon says that heaven is not impressed by strong starts. God watches how a man finishes. And that hits hard in our culture because we're filled with men who begin passionately but fade spiritually. We see men launch businesses, but they lose their families in the process. Build ministries, but lose integrity. We gain influence, but lose humility. And we look strong publicly, but privately we're collapsing. And so the end is better because completion reveals truth. Perseverance reveals character. Suffering is going to refine wisdom, and eternity matters way more than earthly beginnings. So a righteous ending means that faith survived trials, that wisdom matured, pride was broken, the soul learned dependence upon God. And that mature saint is spiritually more beautiful than the naive beginner. Solomon says that wisdom is not formed in comfort or applause. It's formed in suffering, correction, endurance, and remembering that every man will only stand one day before God. We will all stand before judgment. And that's, in a way, relates to what Paul talks about in Romans 5, that suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And that's why it's better to go to the house of mourning than the house of feasting. Funerals wake us up. I've had a close friend of mine pass away about a month ago, 2 months ago. Another good friend of mine from high school just passed away last week. And so I know in that, right, we'll all talk about the good times we had with him. But for us men and women, there's wow, this is going to end. Every coffin preaches the same sermon, that your money won't save you, your title won't save you, masculinity won't save you, right? Your success cannot stop your death. And that's exactly where, to me, Jesus Christ steps into the story for all of us. Ecclesiastes is going to expose the vapor of life under the sun, where everything fades, everything dies. Every wise man is going to perish in the flesh. But Jesus says that I am the resurrection and the life. And while Solomon is revealing the problem, Christ becomes the answer. And Jesus transforms Solomon's observations into eternal hope. That Solomon sees that everyone dies and earthly pursuits fade, as we just talked about, and that wisdom alone cannot defeat death. But Jesus answers by saying, yes, death is real, but resurrection is greater. Eternal life conquers the vapor of earthly existence. And while Ecclesiastes says that life under the sun is a fleeting vapor, which is Hebel, we've talked about this, right? Vanity. Again, Jesus in John 11:25 reinforces that he is the resurrection and the life. And so, men, we are today exhausted trying to prove ourselves. We chase status, validation, influence, wealth, pleasure, control, and power. But the strongest man is not the man who dominates the room, dominates the arena. It's the man who remains faithful when nobody is watching, the man who endures, the man who repents, very important, and the man who finishes with integrity. Because at the end of your life, nobody will care how great you started. They're all going to look at how you finished. And so that question will be, did I walk with God until the finish line? So today's question, men, is if your life ended today, would your ending reveal a man who merely talked about faith or a man who truly endured with Christ and lived it out? And this is why we sharpen the sword daily, men. Not for performance, not for image, but so that we finish well. So join me again next time as we walk through Ecclesiastes 8 and fearing God. Until then, be strong, be alert, stay armored up, brothers. Join next time. Talk to you soon.